what I want to first preface about this kind of masterclass is that I really want you guys to utilize the chat box. I'm here to help answer any questions. The first group was awesome. Those of them that could show up, there was a lot of really great things that we were able to talk about, which was awesome to just get more real-time conversation. So feel free to use the chat. Hi, Stephanie. So let's do this. I would love for you all to, if you feel comfortable, please introduce yourself. You can even just share, like, just say hi, but something a little bit about yourself and what brought you here today. And as you guys chime in, I will be sharing my screen and I'll be going through a PowerPoint talking more about the concepts that are in the program that I will be finishing this webinar with. So if you are here, I will be talking about the program that I am currently opening enrollment for. So yeah, hi April. So if you feel comfortable, I would love to hear a little bit more about you. I actually know a bunch of you guys, which is awesome. Excellent. So let me just rearrange a few things. And, oh, not that. Okay, so how are we all feeling today? Hi, Priscilla. I hope you got my email. I know it was kind of confusing initially. Okay. All right. Okay, so Eve and I DM'd on Instagram. So cool. So let's start. This is technically my third webinar. The slides are animated, but unfortunately I am not that tech savvy, so I don't know how to share my screens and animate everything. So we're going to just share my screen and we'll go from there. So again, everyone, welcome to this masterclass. I hope you guys have a little bit more than an hour to share with me because there are going to be just some pauses where I want to kind of help coach and chat with you guys a little bit more. So again, this masterclass, we're going to talk a little bit more about my 3-step process to heal, restore, and rewire the brain-body connection. You are in the right place. If you've tried every fad diet that is seemingly out there, and you're finally ready to put an end to dieting for good, if that resonates with you, feel free to say heck yes. Let me pull this up to the side so I can see you guys chatting. Okay, you're in the right place if you're tired of punishing your body with cookie cutter plans and fitness trends and finally ready to learn how to work with your body. Emphasis on the with. You're in the right place if you're ready to declutter the noise, learn how to listen to your body, and honor the cues it's sending you so you can finally learn what it feels like to be an expert in your body. Awesome, Priscilla. Okay, cool. So sounds like a bunch of you guys are in the right place. This is not for you, however, if you're looking for a quick fix plan and you're not ready to put in the deep inner work that it requires to help you feel like the expert of your body. You're someone that maybe believes that they have to do it all by themselves. They can't ask for help. They can't get support, or that maybe they feel like, they just feel like they have to take ownership over everything. I think there's growth in that, right? Like a lot of us feel that way initially, but I think we see the potential of asking for help. And I just want to again preface this that I will be talking about my 12-week online coaching course because a lot of this webinar is based off of those principles. So my promise to you today is that I will show up as my authentic self, create a non-judgmental, safe space for you guys to ask questions, chime in, share a little bit more about what you're going through. We had a great, again, the first group talked a little bit more about kind of digestion, their frustrations and fears around weight gain. So I definitely want to kind of create that same safe space here. What I'm sharing is backed by science. So I've been a coach for 12 years in the industry, coach enough people in a quality way that I've seen this stuff work. So it has been proven to work. By end of this masterclass, you will learn the 3 biggest health blockers that prevent you from feeling grounded, connected, and pain-free in your body. I'll also be sharing with you my signature 3-part method that will help you understand your body better and better better connection. Yeah, I keep talking about the word connection, but I keep going back to that because there's so much of us that feel really disconnect or strangers to our body. And I really want to kind of highlight that ability for you to then regain that confidence with it. So, okay, so you guys can maximize this class by taking notes. There's a lot of information. So I'd love for you guys, if you guys have a sheet of paper, pen, your phone, just jot down notes as you kind of go through this course. There'll be tidbits that I do want you to probably reflect on after. Feel free to ask questions as we go through this, and just remain open and curious to the information that's shared. Again, this is a very different approach to fitness. Because my background is neuroscience, I'm taking a much different lens on how to better align yourself with your health needs. So in the chat box, I would love for you guys to maybe share a little bit more about what you're committed to creating in your life over the next 3 to 6 months. You guys can take your time thinking about this. And then this would be helpful for you guys to just write down in general. I'm not a big New Year's resolution fan, but yeah, Stephanie, awesome. But it is helpful to lay out kind of intention, something to like forward, where you can focus on further forward. Priscilla, developing a system for me that is a good lifestyle change to live a better life. Awesome. So Stephanie mentioned a routine that actually she looks forward to. So for many of us, I think sometimes we get stuck in this habituated routine, and not until we kind of take a step back, we're like, wow, I don't even know if I enjoy that. But we continue to repeat it. And sometimes we don't know what other options are out there. So I want to kind of create more options for you guys. Okay, and then maybe what are your goals in the next 3 to 6 months? What kind of comes to mind? Professional goals. Obviously, this is more health focused, but we all know that sometimes our health influences our other parts of our life. Olivia, awesome. Becoming more aware of my body, being able to listen to what my body needs. It's very fascinating that a lot of us go through this process of re-educating ourselves and learning what she's trying to tell us. And this course or this lecture is just like gonna highlight that points a lot. Okay. Yeah, rediscover enjoyment. Be able to manage work and health without feeling stuck. Yeah, I mean, the feeling of stuck, Priscilla, is so common. Well, that's literally in this PowerPoint, so we'll definitely highlight that. So, hi everyone, my name is Alyssa. I'm a brain-based health and movement coach, and I will talk a lot about neuroscience as we go through this and its correlation to how we feel, how we behave, how we interact, and why that's creating certain behaviors in us, and why it all makes sense to me, and how to better problem solve from there. So, I am a dog mom. You will probably see Nala running around in the background with a very supportive boyfriend. I grew up in Hawaii. I was born and raised there. I have very close ties to Hawaii. That's where I'll be going for the holidays. Love acai bowls. Love everything about Hawaii. Even ran with a rock underneath water for fun. Let's say that. So when we talk about finding something that's enjoyable, running underwater with a rock is very fun. All of this basically led me to what I do right now, which is I help clients, or I help specifically in this group. We're looking at you guys, right? Like women that are really looking for a better relationship with food and exercise, to feel less guilty, to have less of this all or nothing mentality, to quiet the chatter, to feel more connected and grounded in their bodies. So we do that through a lot of listening, a lot of coaching, and then through movement. Movement is very healing. So my personal story, I learned how to heal my metabolism, rewire my mindset about my body, my relationship with food and exercise, and move pain-free by doing less punishment and actually enjoying what I was doing, which for many of us, I think we forget that movement can be enjoyable. We kind of just do it as either a checklist. So I really want to highlight that, Stephanie, exactly what you mentioned, like joy and exercise. Like I'm all about that. I think that's the gateway for us to like actually be consistent at something long-term. When I did that, I found that I had more time, less overwhelm, more body trust, less calculations, right? So that less of that exchange of like, I burned this much, I can eat this much. And I just had more access to my life. If that resonates with you, you guys can nod along. I can't see you, but I'll trust that you guys are nodding along to this. But before I was kind of in this mind space of like, wow, I can do less and I can enjoy my life more. I was someone that was really not aligned with that. I was training for a really hard certification that was really pushing my body physically to the limits, while simultaneously deciding to compete in a figure competition. And for those of you that know about bodybuilding or that world, right, it's very intense. You have to be very structured. Your life revolves around the gym. You're bringing Tupperware out to like dinners or like out with nights with friends. So your life revolves around health. It's not the opposite, right? Like health should fit in to your life. There's Nala. So again, my philosophy was like this no pain, no gain mentality. I felt, I felt that I had to push, I had to punish, I had to do all these things in order to gain the ultimate goal. And at that point, it was like an aesthetic goal. But underneath that, we'll talk about that more. So push, 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 grind, 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 until I reached a point where my body had enough. And the subsequent like next 3 years, I would go on to experience all these symptoms, right? Depression, fatigue, rapid weight gain, anxiety, pain, leaky gut, a ton of food sensitivities. So to contrast, right? There's this person that perceivably should be happy because she lives in a body that's more socially acceptable, or that was promised to me in my head, right? If I achieve this certain goal, I should be happy. And then, stepped off the stage, felt really disconnected, probably at more and more disconnect with my body and in more pain. And then my body went into survival mode, which created all these symptoms. So if happiness wasn't in this body, I went back to the drawing board and kind of was stumped, like, and as Priscilla mentioned, stuck, right? It's just like this, like, well, that didn't pan out. Like, what does happiness actually mean? So I felt like I was starting over. There was a lot of frustration, fear. I felt stuck. And I kept mentioning to myself, I did everything perfectly. So why didn't it work out the way I imagined, right? Like I ate perfectly, I trained perfectly, I did everything I felt I should do in order to get the ultimate goal of feeling resilient, strong, confident, embody trust. And I still was feeling, even at more like confused state and feeling stuck. So, I didn't really know what to do. And for many of us, I think we get into that space of like confusion of like, I feel like this should have worked. Like, I don't know what to do now. However, when we don't know what to do, I think the question I want to pose to a lot of you is, what do you know that you don't want to do? So I didn't want to do fasted cardio. I didn't want to diet anymore. I didn't want to count calories. I didn't want to spend my Friday nights at the bar. I was tired of obsessing over what I ate. Don't want to do burpees. Exactly, Stephanie. Like, who really likes burpees? Actually, I have one client that does. He does like them. I didn't want to miss out on life. I was tired of the grind and I was really unhappy. So that kind of created more of a filter for me to be like, okay, I know I don't want to do this. So if I don't want to do this, what are my other options? And we'll talk about that. I also didn't want to feel like a stranger to my own body. I think going through a metabolic response like that, felt like I was stuck in a body I didn't recognize. I had not only the shape, but also the mental space that I felt so ungrounded. And I just didn't recognize her. I was like, I'm moving my body through space. I'm going through work, but it didn't feel like it was mine. I also didn't want to feel like a prisoner to my own body, like out of control. And on Instagram, I talked about this sense of being in control as it being like a defense mechanism or a survival strategy in a positive light, because control provides us a sense of like something to grab hold on. And when life around us feels really messy or like we don't really feel rooted, we start seeking control in other areas. So I didn't want to feel like a prisoner to my own body. I want to be in partnership with my body. And so, you'll see this a lot on my like website and how I talk about movement, but I wanted to befriend my body. And I came across this quote a few years ago. And let me just read it out loud to you guys. And I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. It took a long breath and replied, I have been waiting my whole life for this. So this quote was like, it resonated so strongly with me that I literally have put it like almost on every platform of my business, because befriending your body is somewhere where I believe a lot of us deserve to be, but sometimes we don't know how to get there. And befriending your body is very multi-layered. When we think about befriending your body, it comes down to like, let's reacquaint ourselves with her again, right? Let's reintroduce her, and let's maybe unlearn and then relearn a few things. I often describe this as like you're trying to just date yourself again, right? Like when you are dating, you're kind of like, um, you're going in with like a lot of curiosity, right? There's just this interest in kind of like learning all about this person and what kind of like works for them, what's their interest. And so, you're kind of going through this whole process of relearning her. And this is like such a beautiful process to take you through, which involves, for many of us, redefining happiness and health. That's not what social media or even media tells us what it should look or feel like, but it's really redefining it for ourselves. So guys, in the chat box, like I would love for you guys to maybe share a little bit more about, what happiness means to you. What does health mean to you? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And just kind of brainstorm on that. I'll keep popping into the chat box to see what you guys are saying. But in order to redefine all of this, right? In order to redefine everything that you guys start chatting about, it's like you have to go through this process of like dismantling your beliefs. Like, what is pain? What actually is health? What is happiness? What is a grind? Do I have to grind? Do I need to do more? Should I do less? Can I do less? And then who was I, right? So I attached so much of my identity to being a competitor, to being this fitness professional, that I got really muddled of like who was I apart from my body. And so for many of us, right, we identify a lot of us in our physical capabilities, in our physical attributes, in our performance attributes, right? But you take that all away, what's left is still you, right? And that's still super valuable, but that gets mixed up in the process of like pursuing our health goals. Eve, holistic wellness and overall alignment with my vision. That is beautiful. Stephanie, being true to my personal values. Amazing. So, I'm a big believer in values, and we'll talk about this today too, is like, we got to learn how to like get clear on those, because the more clear we are on that, the better you can literally filter through any type of fitness trend or diet gimmick that comes your way, because if it doesn't align, it's not worth your time, right? Okay, so through the process of dismantling these beliefs, right, I learned that enduring pain was never manageable, like never equated to success. Instead, I learned to stop and really get familiar and assess it. I pursuing happiness, didn't live in the next relationship, the next body, the next competition, next award. I was just on a call with someone talking about the destination addiction, where we believe that we'll be happy when, right? And you fill in the blank with whatever kind of resonates with you in the past. Like for me, it was like my body. And then you go into different jobs, you go into all these different categories because you're looking for happiness in the next and the next. And the last thing that I learned was that your body's always working ways to keep you alive. Whether it may seem like it or not, right? The symptoms can be kind of muddled, but it is always orienting you towards safety, always orienting you towards safety. Okay, so Priscilla, I need to remember health and performance is not attached to a reps number. That if I don't hit it, doesn't mean I'm not progressing. Exactly. Decreasing stress, doing movements that minimizes. Yeah, amazing. Like these are great things that I think as you guys kind of like reflect on these questions, like hopefully it gets you to kind of like have a different perspective on like what your needs are, and like maybe these beliefs that need to be dismantled in order for you to get to like the next stage of your health journey. So let me pose this question to you guys. When I was like at my most quote unquote like unhealthiest state, I was really low mood, had a lot of fatigue, was struggling with like the rapid weight gain. I was then asked this question by my mentor at the time. Do you believe that there is someone out there that exists in your current body and is happy? And I remember hearing that and being like, oh, I do. So if there's someone out there that can live a life that is in the shape, right? Is maybe not hitting PRs, but they're actually really happy. What is it that I need to work on or unlearn, right, in order to live in that type of alignment? So what about you guys? Do you believe that there is someone out there that exists in your current body and is happy? Yeah, Priscilla, yes, totally. So, as we go through this, we're going to start with these 3 health blockers. 3 health blockers that need to be addressed when we look at kind of reconnecting the brain and the body. Olivia, yes, totally. So number 1 health blocker, the I've tried everything. Awesome. Thanks, Eve. Thank you for sharing that. So number 1 health blocker is I've tried everything, right? So what are examples of everything? When you guys think, have you guys ever said this? Like, I've tried everything, right? Frustrated. I don't know why this is working. Sometimes when we look at everything, diets are a great example. Keto diet, Whole30, intuitive eating, grapefruit diet. I don't know. It's like eat grapefruits all day. Calorie counting, macro counting. So we have, this, everything is very accessible, right? You do a Google search. I did this quick Google search. Sorry, I formatted to Keynote and changed a few things. I Googled the best diets of 2019. And if you look at April, hi April, tons of cardio. Oh, okay. So when you look at the best diets of 2019, look at how much results you get in 0.74 seconds. Best foods for energy in 2019 in 0.61 seconds. Look at all the results you get. And then healthiest foods in 2019. We are flooded with information, literally accessible information. The amount of information and the amount of conflicting information literally get fed to us in this amount of time, right? So we're bound to be confused. We're bound to be confused. We're bound to be overwhelmed, feeling stuck, literally telling ourselves I've tried everything, because everything is so accessible, right? It's so easy to kind of get that information. So let's say we do the calorie counting. What ends up happening when I did some of the calorie counting was I realized I became more detached to my body, right? I was just counting calories. I didn't know if I was hungry. I didn't know if I was full. I was just literally I guess I'll just eat 1,200 calories because that's what this says to do. There was absolutely no enjoyment in how I was eating and what I was eating and who I was eating with, right? So again, in more detachment. I became more obsessed with stepping on the scale, more obsessed with how my body looked. And I was really confused at well, what's supposed to happen now if I feel I've tried everything? So the big problem that I see with the I've tried everything kind of mindset is that these everything plans tell you what's right, right? They're hey, Priscilla, count your macros, eat these many macros. And, Priscilla's cool, okay, I'll eat all these macros. Meanwhile, she's God, I'm ravenous still, right? But she's not listening to that part of her body because we are led to believe that these plans have our answers. So there's literally little to no room for your input, your symptoms, your thoughts, nothing. There's no voice that's encouraged for you. So they take you out of the driver's seat, right? And they buckle you into the passenger seat, and they're just let me steer this while you just come along for the ride. Meanwhile, you're getting all these symptoms. You're tired, you're irritable, you're moody, you have all this gut stuff going on, but the book keeps telling you, or the diets keep telling you no, it'll eventually work. Give it 29 more days, right? Whole30, 29 more days. So you keep going. So, the hard part with this is that, again, where are you coming into this plan? Where are you allowed to make your authoritative decision and stand up for your needs? It's it's not really encouraged. So my question to you is, have you ever tried trusting yourself and your body through a brain-based perspective? And this is where we'll go more into the neuroscience. Because in my opinion, from my background, every single symptom that you've experienced, every behavior you ever created was all derived from your nervous system. So if you guys think about that, right? My symptom of feeling really emotional when I've been outdoors all day doing all these Christmas stuff, April, this is like literally a survival mechanism built into your body to tell you like, hey, like I can't do that much Christmas stuff all weekend because I need more time to rest. Great. So April's a client of mine. She went through the Better Expert program. And she is pregnant, which is amazing. And we've really been able to kind of identify patterns that, you know, for her, sometimes alone time is the best medicine. It trumps movement, you know? So getting more familiar with that. So what is brain-based training? So it's a multidisciplinary science that focuses on the study of the different structures of the nervous system and its functions and how it functions with the brain, and then how it impacts your health. So you finally get to understand at the most fundamental level, like how to really address the root cause of like your behaviors, your symptoms, your pain, like your success at work. Like this is all comes down to your nervous system. It's the most effective and innovative way to create long-lasting change without punishment, without shame, without having to push, without having to ignore. So again, symptoms are valuable forms of valuable nuggets of information informing me of what you need. So it creates so much specificity, right? Because April, Olivia, Stephanie, you guys, and Priscilla, like you guys are all like very different. But when you plug into the calorie counter, let's say you guys are all roughly around the same age, roughly around the same weight, it's going to give you the exact same calorie needs. However, you guys don't live the same life. And so with the nervous system perspective, we can get very specific of what your needs are. So again, brain-based, it's the governing system. Who we are is a direct result of the nervous system's ability to interpret, process, and output incoming information. There's a lot of stuff going on daily for you. So we need to give ourselves a break when we feel tired some days or lazy. You got a lot of stuff that you're processing. And it does not pair well when we don't have glucose in our diets. It's a fast system, meaning the speed of the nervous system is so quick that you can create instantaneous change. The great things about these changes, though, is the last point. It's plastic, meaning these changes can literally rewire old thought patterns, new movement patterns, new ways to think, so that you have like a new version of yourself that you've always envisioned you could be. So again, this, hashtag movement is therapy, literally movement is therapy, because the nervous system does those three things, right? We receive some sort of input, it processes, interprets it, and then it gives us some sort of output. So there's all these beautiful structures to the nervous system: the frontal lobe, parietal, occipital, cerebellum, brainstem, temporal lobe. These are all amazing things that are always doing something on a day-to-day basis. But an unhealthy brain creates some compromised outputs. So let's storytell for a little bit. So, the frontal lobe and the cerebellum, they work together. If you struggle with overwhelm, unable to inhibit unwanted thoughts like overwhelm, stress, anxiety, overthinking, your frontal lobe and your cerebellum may not be healthy. In other words, they may not be receiving the right amount of activation to then help you in the best way we see fit to inhibit those thoughts, right? Like, it's not like all of us really want to walk around with anxiousness or like overwhelm all the time. But what if that doesn't come to you just being an anxious person? What if it's because a specific part of your brain is underactive? And there's like therapy drills that can help increase activation to those very specific parts of the brain. So now you can just do your drills. A lot of it comes down to vision drills, and you can feel so much more relaxed in your body. And again, it can happen instantaneously. So again, an unhealthy brain creates these interesting outputs. So maybe there's anxiousness as a result of an unhealthy brain. Maybe there's easy to overwhelm. You're constantly fatigued. You have really interesting eating behaviors, right? You're like someone that's like, I need to snack literally all day long. Or it's like, I can't eat unless it's between 2 and 5:30 p.m. You have maybe interesting exercise behaviors, right? You're someone that loves yoga but hates running. Or vice versa, you're someone that loves running and can't stand slowing down and doing stretching, right? So all of these outputs are little nuggets, again, information that provide me with a lens of what your brain's actually trying to process and receive, and what areas might be underactive, and how can we go about creating more synergy between the two. So you know, again, I referenced like I had this no pain, no gain mentality. And as I kind of like dismantled that belief, I realized that, wow, pain is like an output. It's an action signal that by like should never be ignored. Like, meanwhile, like many of us go throughout the day, we're like, oh, I got to creak my shoulder, right? Like stomach's uncomfortable. And we just kind of go on to this habit of like ignoring it. But it's actually a signal that's telling us that we need to press pause and address something. The tricky part is identifying what that something is. So if you guys kind of sit with your body right now, kind of close your eyes, I want you guys to take yourself through like a very quick body scan. So just kind of start at your tips of your toes, work up to your calves, your knees, your legs, and come all the way up to the crown of your head. And just bring awareness to any pockets that feel maybe a little uncomfortable, maybe on the verge of pain, maybe pain itself. And what's fascinating is that majority of us will have something that's chatty. However, you know, life is demanding. We work a job, we're running around, that we go through this process of like ignoring it. So the pain has to get louder, right? So then we pull our back, we strain our back, we get bloated, we have a stomach ache. Like all these things start to surface because we're ignoring this pain output. So as you guys go through that scan, let me know what kind of is chatty right now. Because again, when we ignore these outputs, we have really interesting outcomes. Detachment from the body, disconnected, confusion, frustration, and this feeling of I am defective, right? Like there's something wrong with me and I don't know what it is. And then it leads us to feel just like really alone and really confused in our body. Because I take a brain-based approach, I really cut down the confusion. I cut down the defectiveness. I literally love when clients tell me or start a sentence with, Melissa, this might sound weird, or is this crazy? Because literally I encourage every single symptom that you experience is not crazy. It's not unusual. It's like super interesting. And I want to help you unpack all of that because it'll provide you with so much more compassion, so much more empathy for everything that you're going through. And it will allow you to better connect to your body. So again, we're trying to start that conversation. Again, it leaves us feeling like, what's wrong with me? Have you guys ever said this? What's wrong with me? I have said that quite a lot. Yeah, Priscilla, totally. Like I was literally asking myself like that all the time. Hi, Laurie. Cool. So when we go back to the nervous system, again, its number one job is survival. So your body's working in very mysterious ways, perceivably mysterious ways of keeping you alive, whether it may seem like it or not, but it's always like shifting you towards what's more safe, what's safer. And that in some cases can be kind of conflicting to what your goals may be, right? Like I want to like get really strong, but why is my body getting me really tired? And what you could be going through is like literally overtraining, right? Overtraining is really common. And sometimes the body like rapidly slows down or gives you these overtraining symptoms to like force you to stay in bed. If you've ever overtrained, it's like a very unpleasant feeling, but it's purposeful, right? Because it makes you rest, you eat more, and you wake up feeling better. So, you know, one thing to reassure you guys of, if the I've tried everything health blocker, the first health blocker resonates with you, is that trying everything actually has left you with a ton of clues about what may not work, which threatened your survival, or what may have worked. So when you guys think back of like all the programs that you've been on, and April, you can probably chime in on this too, is like, you know, April did like a very similar process of going to competitions and doing all this stuff, not like doing fasted cardio, all of that. And she probably figured out throughout the process as we've worked together to like take away all the other noise and figure out like, oh, this is actually what we learned about her body. Because no plan is perfect if it doesn't allow you to be the authoritative figure, right? So I keep going back to that. Like this program, which I will talk about later, is about putting you back in the driver's seat. Like, I don't want you in the passenger seat. I'll be in the passenger seat helping guide you and like showing you the GPS map, but this is your ride, right? And I'm here to help guide you. So when you think about I've tried everything, driver's seat is best, totally. Especially if you're prone to getting motion sickness. Okay, so I've tried everything, but my encouragement would be, have you learned how to assess yourself, right? From a brain-based perspective, to really understand at the root of it, what your nervous system's needs actually are. Can you, have you ever provided yourself with the right strategies, the drills, the inputs that would allow you to feel more connected to your body? Because if you can create more safety, your brain is gonna like not run on survival mode. And survival mode for many of us is very familiar, right? It's that wired and tired feeling of like, holy smokes, like I'm, for some reason I have this false sense of like this false energy, but I feel at the same time really tired. So that's health blocker number one. Number two, the mindset of I'll always have to diet. And this can manifest in like a bunch of different ways, which we'll talk about. But let me pose these three next questions. So I'll always have to diet. Every time you stop dieting, what is the belief that you have about what happens? And again, if you guys feel free to chat, to utilize this platform. I guarantee you someone else is probably going to say something very similar or is thinking a very similar thing to you. What is the belief that you have of what happens when you stop dieting? For me personally, it was like, if I stop dieting, I'm going to gain all this weight. Yeah, Olivia, weight gain, totally, right? I'm going to gain this weight. I'm going to lose my progress. All progress is gone, totally. What happens when every time you stop training, what is the belief you have? Priscilla, I'm going to read your mind. You're not going to be as strong, right? Stephanie, I won't go back to healthy eating because pizza is delicious. Yeah, right? It's like, I ate a slice of pizza. Oh my gosh, like I doubt myself that I'm going to be able to wake up tomorrow morning and have like the foods that are best for me, right? It's kind of this catastrophic, like, oh my God, I stepped off the plan. I'm going to like totally go the opposite end of the spectrum. That all the training was wasted. Yeah, totally. So, the beliefs are really powerful, right? We start going down this rabbit hole of like, what's going on? Like all these things are going to happen to me, but we don't know that yet, right? Okay, what about when you take a day off? This probably, Priscilla, what you mentioned about like, maybe losing progress, right? It's going to hurt too much to get back. Yeah, to where I should be, totally. And like, Lori, what's interesting is that sometimes when we lose, like getting back, sometimes like, that may be actually another indicator that your starting point actually needs to be something different, right? Not less, but maybe just something different. Like we don't always need just one option, but for many of us, that's all we have right now, right? Our toolbox is kind of limited. Yeah, definitely lose momentum. I'm like distracted. I have like, ADD. I'm going to like totally just eat pizza every meal of the day. I'm lazy, right? I love debunking lazy because I think lazy is actually super informative. So for me and Priscilla, we already talked about this. I think it comes down to like, how are you breathing? How's your nutrition? Because your brain may be starved of the two things that it needs to kind of keep functioning and processing. And especially if you've had a busy day. Priscilla has like a pretty busy schedule. So, okay. So beliefs, right? Beliefs are pretty impactful. So I want to talk to you guys about the threat bucket. So beautiful principle when we talk about neuroscience. So there's supposed to be a bucket right here. So anyways, there's a bucket between all these arrows. So when we look at this bucket, there's all these things that are getting filled into our bucket, right? Our unique health history. So if we've had any kind of surgeries, if we've had any sprained ankles, any dental work, any eye surgeries, how we sleep. Do we sleep well? What kind of foods do we eat? Tattoos. Yes, April, tattoos. Tattoos are actually scars, guys. So if you have tattoos, your brain is perceiving that as an actual scar and will create a lot of amnesia around that area. So let's say you have a shoulder tattoo. Your brain may now not recognize where your shoulder is because it's perceiving that as such a stress or trauma. So April has very many tattoos. But as we've learned to kind of create sensation, eight tattoos, as we learn to create sensation, she's had a beautiful benefit of feeling much more connected to her body. Her body responds really well to the right types of input by reducing muscle tension. So she feels more flexible. She then can like move into our movement practice with much more strength. Exercise is another thing that adds into our threat bucket. Are we doing too much, too little, too intense? Our eyes, I highlighted eyes a little bit. A lot of my, because neuroscience factors in our visual system as well. Are your eyes working well together? Are you staring at a screen all day? Are you getting eye strain? Unclear maps. We'll talk about that soon. Respiration habits. And again, your beliefs and your internal narrative. Those can have a pretty heavy influence on your threat bucket. So, you know, as we kind of fill our threat bucket with all these things that may not be working well for us, sometimes the bucket leaks, right? The little spigot kind of overflows, and the output will be pain. And again, pain is uniquely personal. So we can categorize pain as anxiety, emotional instability, limited range of motion, chronic neck pain, headaches, digestive discomfort, laziness, lack of motivation, right? So we just get symptomatic when our threat bucket overflows. So I was storytelling with the first group about how, you know, when you wake up in the morning, you essentially start with like hopefully a pretty light bucket, but let's say that you had disrupted sleep. So as soon as your feet hit the floor, you pick up your bucket and you're like, oh, there's some rocks in it already, right? Or some liquid. So it's already a little heavy. You go into the kitchen, you open up the fridge, you're like, oh my God, we're out of food. You're like, oh, I can't eat breakfast. So then your bucket starts to fill up with the more perceived signs of like threats, right? So before you even head out the door to go to work, to go to like pick up the kids or something like that, your bucket's already kind of full. And then the fullness is what then kind of, without strategies, we start getting pain, right? We start getting more symptomatic. So you guys will probably notice that on days you don't sleep well, right? On days where you maybe, if you're naturally introverted and you're in an extroverted environment, that sometimes you're like really symptomatic. You're more edgy, you're more irritable, you're tired. So again, in the brain-based training philosophy, we identify strategies so you're better equipped to identify threats and then have the tools to then patch up these little holes, right? So your bucket, number one, doesn't overflow. And then you also can like have the prerequisites to kind of like not fill it up throughout the day. So when we go to beliefs, right, we go back to the health blocker number 2 about I always have to diet or always have to train. My question to you is then this. So what if failing on your diet was the healthiest thing for you, right? What if you not being compliant on your diet was actually healthy for you? Because what if failing on your diet is a survival mechanism built into our DNA, right? The nervous system is always orienting you towards survival. Because we're not built to sustain restriction longer than our bodies predetermine what's safe enough, right? And for females, a great example for us is if our cycle gets irregular, if we notice different hormonal shifts, like that's in itself little nuggets of information that'll help us understand like, oh, something must be going on. Because again, it's not our fault, right? Instead, it's all about safety. The brain will always pick the best option to keep you alive. The best option. May not be the one you want, but it's going to be the best one. So your beliefs add to your threat response, right? What you tell yourself increases sympathetic drive. What you believe about yourself also increases sympathetic drive. And sympathetic drive is just your, fight or flight response. The sympathetic nervous system, part of the nervous system, is purposeful. However, we're not meant to chronically stay there. For many of us, we kind of jump up there because we're stuck in traffic, we're late for work, and then we never come out of that, right? So all day we're functioning at this very high stress state, and it just adds to our threat bucket. And then we get home, we're depleted, we're tired, we sit down on the couch, and we're like, oh my God, I can't move. I was telling Priscilla yesterday that, then you're like, automatically door dashing because you don't want to cook. You just want food delivered to your door ASAP because you're ravenous, right? You haven't eaten all day. So, with the brain-based approach, we're looking at rewiring those beliefs. So how can we go about rewiring that mindset? And again, it just takes it from a brain-based perspective. Like it's possible because again, the brain is plastic. So, with intentional steps to understand when to rest, when to train guilt-free, we then have more compassion, right? We're more understanding of the days where we're lazy. We're more understanding of when it's that time of the month when we should slow down and not like put a million tasks on our to-do list or not host all these meetings. It's like, oh no, I'm going to get my cycle. I typically know that I'm less interested in going out. I want to stay at home. I want to be a hermit and I want to eat a lot of chocolate. Like this all makes sense. Because when you're clear on your threats and your brain's needs, everything is you're less stuck, right? You're less frustrated, you're less fear-based, you're just curious and you're experimenting. So the last health blocker, actually, do you guys have any questions? Feel free to chime in. I'm just kind of going through the presentation, but Number 3 health blocker is I'm defective, which I talked about earlier, when this concept of like, what's wrong with me? So sometimes we go through the world, right? We're looking at like everyone on social media, everyone at work, and they're like, God, they're so balanced. Everyone understands their body. Everyone's so consistent. Well, they always get to the gym and they have kids and they have all these things. And they seem to really trust their body too, right? They're just like, oh my God, they live this like perfect life. So everyone else, right? Left category. Then there's you. All in, all out, right? I don't know what balance is. I literally just do 180, right? Like decide on Monday, I'm going to start eating clean. Cool. I'm going to jump in 180, start my diet, go to the gym. But then something happens. You're like, oh God, never mind. I'm going to step out. I don't know what balance is. Never experienced it. All in, all out. Everyone else understands their body, whereas you are confused, right? There's this like element of like, I'm not quite sure if I should trust her. Like, what is that symptom she's giving me? Like, I don't really get it. And then like the perceived, they trust their body, they're in unison, they're a partnership. There's then the distrust with you, right? The questioning, the second guessing, the maybe negative self-chatter that you have with her. So it makes us feel like we're out of order, right? It makes us feel like there's something wrong with us. And honestly, you're not really reassured that there's nothing wrong with you more than enough. Because I've had a ton of clients go to professionals and they were told that they were given a diagnosis, right? That there's something wrong with you. And I'm here to kind of reassure you that there's nothing wrong, right? Yeah. So Divya, what if I have trouble getting motivated to exercise? Great question. I mean, how many of you can also relate to this, right? Like you're like, oh, I should be working out. Like, why can't I work out? Why can't I go into the gym and wake up early, get my shoes on? So motivation can be trained the same way muscles and joints, everything can be trained. When we lack motivation, typically, and Divya is in the program, so we're going to assess you, but when we lack motivation, in many cases, it comes down to like, how well are you breathing? How well is your recovery? Because if you sleep well and you breathe well, those are the 2 foundational steps that'll help you wake up feeling motivated, energized, and excited, right, to work out. Sometimes with lack of motivation, it's like that one option we think, right? What Lori had mentioned is like, sometimes it's like, it's going to hurt to get back to where she was. Sometimes we feel like we have one option. Meanwhile, there's like all these other options underneath the surface level. So motivation is just something that can really be unraveled with each of you kind of figuring out like, what may be also contributing to this brain fog, this lack of interest. And again, when Stephanie was talking about she wants to find enjoyment with exercise, totally. Like, let's find something you actually enjoy that you can like look forward to doing. So I want to talk to you about Vanessa. So, she eloquently said this like so beautifully of like, everything that you raise an eyebrow to, those are the things that are going to impact you the most. So for those of you like that are thinking about like, my symptoms, like what's going on with my body, like all those symptoms, all the things that you're like, that was weird. Like, why did that happen? That's literally those nuggets of information that I want to learn about you. Like, I want to learn why your body at 2:30 p.m. craves like a very specific type of chocolate, right? Like, why does that happen? And let's look at that, because the best thing we can do is get curious about those things, because there's so much that your body's telling you on a day-to-day basis, every second of the day, but we just get used to being disconnected from it. And again, it's not our fault because there's so much stuff that distracts us from the body. So here, oh, great. So Divya, I'll talk more about the motivation part of it. So these are some common things I hear people say, and these are my common arguments from a brain-based perspective. So, reasons why your weight doesn't change. I think, some clients come to me like, I've, had this weight gain. It's not coming off. I've tried everything that I used to do, but it's not going anywhere. Like, what's going on? Right. Like, and they default to going back to their old habits, right? I'm going to starve myself. I'm going to push myself harder. I'll add in another cardio session. My argument to that is to take a step back and to have more compassion to what's going on with your current day-to-day schedule, right? Like, let's look at your bucket. Like, what's in your bucket? You like pour your bucket out and there's like 500 rocks in there, right? Or like there's like mounts of liquid in there. So weight gain or stubborn weight is literally your brain saying, I don't feel safe. I'm going to protect you and I'm going to create a barrier for something outside of you. So those barriers that we create, physical barriers, right? Body fat is a physical barrier, is literally you creating more space from something outside of you that's stressful. Okay. So stress, again, is very uniquely personal. So stress could be like blue light, right? Stare at a computer all day. Your brain doesn't like that. It feels very stressed when you look at blue light. It could be the temperature change, right? You may find that motivation gets impacted with winter seasons, less sunlight. So you start creating barriers. And that's why during the winter, like if you put on weight, totally normal. Feel less motivated, totally normal. So reasons why you're unmotivated. Again, let's look at your bucket. What's stressful? What's going on in your life that's inhibiting that natural interest for you to want to move your body? Maybe movement and exercise makes you feel worse. And that is so normal. Like for a while when I would exercise, like it would literally put me into like a sympathetic drive. Like I would get a cortisol release. I'd gain weight rapidly, very quickly. Like literally I'd probably work out the next day, I'd weigh in and get heavier, which is just a sign for my own body that was like more stressful. So, when we look at motivation, it's like there are so many other things that can cloud our interest and that can really inhibit our ability to wake up feeling like we want to move our body. And how I teach movement is I want to teach it in a way that allows you to open up doors, right? Movement options, create more movement options that your brain receives well, right? Because exercise is still a stress. We want to make sure you can maximize the stress though, right? Like not have it put you into kind of like that, again, that fight or flight response. So reasons why I crave sugar, right? A lot of us are like, oh God, I have such a sweet tooth. Like, I don't know why, like I'm eating this and, I wish I didn't have it. And again, going back to what I was talking about is the brain needs two things to survive: fuel and activation. Fuel breaks down into glucose and oxygen. Activation in the forms of therapeutic movement. So why you may crave sugar is that you're underfueled. Maybe you're doing keto. Maybe you've missed too many meals and you've created too much of a deficit. Maybe my fitness pal told you to eat 800 calories and you've been doing that for a month and you're in so much of so much in deprivation that your body's literally so stressed out. Okay. So again, there are these survival strategies that are built in to explain everything that your brain is going through, right? Because your brain is constantly, again, remember, it's receiving that input, interpreting, creating an output. So our outputs are behaviors are actually these survival strategies put in place by the nervous system to keep you alive. When you're fatigued, you're probably going to nap. When you're underfed, you're probably going to binge. When you're underfed or you're obsessive about food, you're just going to be so much more hardwired to watching Food Network, to baking, right? So all these really interesting characteristics. So I encourage you guys to reflect on, what are your current survival strategies? What are certain things that you recognize, and laziness is a great one, that are built in? Snacking, exactly. Let's talk about snacking, actually, really. What does that eat to stay awake? Yeah, totally. So Divya, like, the motivation component, you and I should really look at like your sleep routine, quality of sleep, nighttime routine, blue light exposure, all of those things. So what are your current survival strategies and what are they trying to tell you? So Olivia, let's break down your snacking actually a little bit. So someone who's more prone to snacking, love snackers, right? It's like this inherent need to like kind of crunch, munch, chew. Maybe it's entertainment, sometimes multitasking, right? Chewing and then thinking is helpful. Sometimes it's distracting. If we're doing something that's like monotonous, I like to snack on things. So snacking in itself, again, could be a form of distraction. It could be a form of activation from our palate, right? We can taste all these things on our tongue, which then sends a signal to our nervous system, letting us know where we are. Snacking also is a beautiful way for us to, when I talk about movement as therapy, it actually increases, or I should say it activates all these cranial nerves. So we have 12 cranial nerves, but we have 12 on the right, 12 on the left. So essentially 24. When we chew through snacking, we actually activate all those, 6 cranial nerves, but 12 if we go right and left. And then we provide our brain, again, the right type of therapy if we feel really stressed. Okay, so that's kind of how we break down neuroscience with like behaviors. So let's go on to the 3 core elements of health. So for myself, being in this industry, I've dabbled in a lot of different types of programs for myself. I've tried to coach people a very specific way, and finally came up with this, that everyone who's trying to be successful in a program needs these three things within their program. They need movement, they need mindset, and they need nutrition. So all these things need to encompass a program. And the Better Expert program dabbles in all of these things. I shouldn't say dabble, really looks into all of these things at a much deeper lens. Okay, so let's say you have the movement piece, right? You're used to kind of going to CrossFit, you're used to going to the gym. You also have the mindset. You're doing some self-care, some active reflections. But let's say you just have those two. What ends up happening is you're so focused on the grind, right? You're really focused on like pushing, but you're tired. You're then struggling with energy, digestion, and maybe even anxiety, because digestion is very linked to anxiety. We'll talk about the gut and brain connection very soon. And then let's say you just have the movement and the nutrition pieces, right? So you're chasing happiness. There's like this body image goal, but then when you kind of like get there, or the destination addiction like I was talking about, you don't feel worthy or good enough. So you're always in this pursuit of like, what's next and what's my potential? And then nutrition and mindset. So let's say you just have those two. So in many cases, I hear people say, I'm just going to eat a little bit, right? I'm just going to eat like a bird so I don't have to work it off. But what ends up happening is that you start to develop less confidence in your body. You start to say no to movements, to activities. So your opportunities to like socialize, engage with friends becomes much smaller. So it impacts your life. So I'm going to start talking about my program, or the program that is open for enrollment. So, the Better Expert signature method factors in those 3 facets, right? Brain-based movement, focus, intuitive eating, and mindset. I call it move, fuel, and feel. So the first component of move, we're looking at getting into the habit of assessing and reassessing and understanding your unique nervous system. So for all of you, right, the nervous system is so fast that when you constantly are in this assess, reassess mentality, you're constantly picking up data of what your brain is processing all the time. So it's not a cookie cutter plan, because no two nervous systems are alike, right? You look at everyone's threat bucket. What you fill it up to what someone else fills it up with is going to look totally different, right? Your health history, your surgeries, your unique internal chatter, like all of that's so unique to you that this process, it shouldn't be a cookie cutter plan. So it's a brain-based map. It's providing clarity. And let's talk about that clarity, those movement maps. So we have sensory and movement maps in our nervous system. So your brain has a movement map for every piece and body part. However, when we don't move it enough, maybe there's injury, there's surgery, there's tattoos, those movement maps get really blurry. And when those movement maps get blurry, we move slower, we don't want to move. So DVO, when we factor in motivation, you might have a lot of blurry maps. And so those maps, because they're not clear, your brain's interest in moving is like, hold on, I'm not going to do that. Like, I don't know how to move that. I don't know how to move that way. And I don't trust it. Like, I don't trust my body. Like, let's keep her at home and let's totally shut down those motivation factors, right? So when those movement maps get blurry, we move slower, we move with more caution, and we probably will experience some sort of pain. And again, because pain is so uniquely individual, sometimes the pain could be lack of motivation, anxiousness, depression, or physical pain. So again, these movement maps are what I focus on clearing up for you guys so that your movement options can expand. So traditional training methods are like this no pain, no gain mentality. There's like fixed set and reps. There's like a black and white kind of like good and bad discussion. And then there's this principle of like more is better. The brain-based approach, or the Better Expert approach, is like, if there's pain, let's stop, let's push pause, and let's assess what that something is. Instead of sets and reps, it's very specified to your nervous system. So DVO, what you may need is going to be completely different than what Olivia needs. So your reps may be 5, Olivia's maybe 2, right? So it's all about specificity. Instead of black and white, I want to coach you to how to learn your letters so that you can then clear movement maps, right? So they talk about in Z Health, which is the neuroscience certification I took, they talk about learning your letters so you can actually utilize the language. So right now, if you're doing CrossFit or these big fundamental movement exercises, but your letters are not very clear, you're going to have a stress response, right? You're going to feel like really tired or depleted or have really unique behaviors. So remember that we need to clear up those movement maps. Instead of more is better, I'm a huge fan of less is more. I want to create something that's so efficient for you that you can, number one, be consistent. It's going to get you results very quickly. That is not a quick fix, though. It's like a neurological change of rewiring these pathways. Okay, so in conclusion, what if every symptom you experience was a negative, useful information? Like I mentioned, those nuggets of information are so powerful. What if the information was the key to opening a conversation up between you and your body? Right? We got to get still, pause, ask ourselves a ton of questions, and really reconnect with our body and open up that line of communication. And then what if your brain's ability to interpret that information could be improved, right? You get clearer maps, clearer dialogue. So we need to understand and go back to that. Our brain's always perceiving, receiving, and interpreting all the information that's coming at us, right? Like we go through our day, there's a ton of interactions. It's always working. So the next phase is kind of going into the fueling component. So brain-based approach to intuitive eating. So have you guys ever said this? Everything makes my stomach hurt. I always have to watch what I eat. I don't know what to eat for my body. So there's confusion. I can't eat X. I'm super sensitive. Because a lot of us, when it comes to nutrition, it can be really confusing, right? So we ask all these questions. Yeah, okay, cool. But let's simplify it, right? My goal is to declutter all the noise and simplify the process. So let's learn how to eat like a kid again, right? So when you talk to kids, it's like, are you hungry? I don't eat carbs, even though I love them. Yeah. So Stephanie, we'll work a lot on like, what's the belief around not eating carbs? How many of you can like resonate with what Stephanie mentioned of like, I don't eat carbs, right? Like whether or not there's like a belief that the carbs slow you down. Yeah. Laurie, I used to. Great. Okay. Right. And then Priscilla, maybe share with us what you used to think about not eating carbs. Carbs are like so funny. It's like the one thing that all of us have experienced. I mean, I totally was a low carb person too. Let me share this because it's fattening, right? So again, when I go back to the nervous system, right, it needs fuel and activation. Fuel from the standpoint of oxygen and glucose. Glucose lives in carbohydrates. So if we're trying to create any type of change, right, any type of change, we can't be on keto, right? And keto is like so huge, right, in the Bay Area too. Like so many people are doing keto, low carb, but they're having lingering pain. They're not creating behavior changes. They're like grinding, right? Yeah, April, I used to think carbs were the enemy. So we go back to eating like a kid again, right? It's like asking, like kids are pretty intuitive. Like we give them benefit of the doubt. They're like, I'm hungry, right? Like feed me now. And then they're like, they stop eating when they're full, right? They get uninterested. They're like, oh, I don't want to eat anymore. They also are very particular about what they like. And they have a social connection when they eat, right? Most of the time they like to eat around people, right? They enjoy the company. But how many of you guys struggle with answering those questions, right? Do you guys know when you're hungry? Do you know what happens when you get hungry? Do you know when you're full? Or do you always find yourself overeating? And this is a big one, right? Do you even know what you enjoy eating? Or like, I don't eat carbs. Have you been led to believe that you can't eat carbs because of, I'm going to get fat, I'm going to gain weight, I'm going to lose progress, right? Olivia, always overeating. Yeah, Olivia, super fascinating. We will look at your vagus nerve. So again, can you guys clearly identify what you like to eat? Power through the hunger, right? Like hunger and fullness, they've taken on very interesting forms of like hunger, like feeling hunger is good and feeling full is bad, you know? And so we'll work a lot on kind of like dismantling those beliefs. Drink coffee to curb hunger. Yeah. So Priscilla, is that just because that's the only thing available, or do you do that because you feel like you shouldn't eat? So again, when we, work related, okay. Yeah, so Lori, like sometimes, you know, when you're like hungry, right? You're like, oh my gosh, like I'm really hungry. You open up your fridge and you're like, nothing looks good to me. It's like you keep opening the fridge, you're like, nothing looks good. So when you have like that suppression of like, I don't know what's interesting to me right now, that's also something very interesting from a nervous system standpoint. I would look at things like, how well do you smell? Smelling is you know, if you have foodies, they have a really refined sense of smell. So they have a very particular palate. So we probably want to check something like smell. The hungrier I am, I start going for unhealthier foods. Right. So, okay. So let's talk about that, guys, if you don't mind, for a little bit. So Divya mentioned that the hungrier I am, I start going for more unhealthier foods. So why do you think that is? Why do you guys think that when you guys pass a level of hunger, you're like, literally give me anything that's processed, right? You're desperate for fuel. That's a beautiful way to put it. More satiation. Okay, great. I love it. So the desperation, right? Sugar, exactly, right? Processed foods, they're going to get broken down way faster. So subconsciously, your brain is like literally ignoring all the fruits and vegetables because it's like, I don't want to cut that, chewing, right? Raw vegetables, raw fruits, like that's a lot of chewing. When I could just have this graham cracker and it just melts on my mouth, right? Yeah. Define unhealthy. Is it what our bodies crave to survive? Lori, could you ask that again, actually? So do you guys have kind of clarity around like, you know, why you guys might crave something more unhealthy or less processed or more processed? Or unhealthier foods. Okay. Yeah. So our bodies will crave anything that'll help keep us alive. And so sometimes when we're in such a deficit, and this could be like a 1-day deficit. I have clients that, you know, they get underfueled for 1 day and then they start seeing the overflow the next few days, just from 1 day of undereating. Other people can sustain that for months and then they get like the overcorrecting, let's say, right? So if our bodies are craving something, it's usually a determining factor of like what we don't have enough of already in our body. So going back to kind of like this great conversation, guys, when we go back to like the kid example, like if we struggle with answering those questions, again, let's go back to the Google search, right? You guys are flooded with so much information. Like if I haven't eaten carbs in a while okay, I'll have you finish that sentence. We have so much information that's fed to us that it literally clouds what we actually enjoy. So my better expert principle is like, let's figure out a balancing act of enjoyment and nourishment. Because from my experience, the foods that we enjoy, because let me ask this, what if the foods that you actually enjoy eating are actually the ones that work better for your brain and thus your body? Because intuitive eating is getting you back in body trust by understanding your brain's needs. So, you know, my principle in eating is like, I want to get to know you and your body so I can best support you with decisions that we make going forward. If I haven't eaten carbs in a while, when I get overly hungry, I will tend towards sugary things. Yeah, totally. Totally. I remember carbs have glucose. So let's say, Lori, like your day-to-day life requires you to be very on, right? Like you're in interactions, you maybe have to do a lot of mental processing, and then you've been doing like keto for like 2 weeks. Literally, you're creating such a deficit that your brain's going to start to have brain fog. You might have physical pain. And then you're going to obsess, right? You're going to obsess about food. You're going to catch yourself watching like the Food Network. You're going to be baking a ton, but then you're not going to eat it, right? You're going to bake and then you're going to give it to someone else. But you just have all these very fascinating behaviors as a result of you just being underfueled. So again, going back to the gut and brain connection, right? I mentioned that earlier. Those two are so correlated. When our gut's not getting what we need, we start noticing it manifest in our anxiousness and how emotional we feel and our overwhelm, and vice versa. When our brain isn't healthy, we get bloated all the time. A lot of food sensitivities, inflamed, cramping, right? How did you know what, Laurie? So as Laurie answers that, wonderful client Angie, she's a mom, right? She was really excited about the program because it didn't require her to take a lot of time. And again, I wanted to find something that was efficient. But she got back into finding foods that she enjoyed. I mean, she was doing, Stephanie, this might resonate with you. She was doing a lot of stuff that her husband was kind of doing, just like doing like no carbs, like doing like meal plan services. She was doing a salad all the time for lunch. And then we kind of just really realized that the solid just wasn't sufficient for her energy needs. So we swapped it out, had her do like rice and like explore what she enjoyed. And now she really figured out like, wow, everything I should be getting out of food was actually in the foods that I enjoy. Oh my gosh, Lori, don't apologize. It's gonna be so nice. I was agreeing with you. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Like, I mean, the only reason why I can say that is because literally like everything that I'm presenting to you guys, I've literally said to myself. You know, I was the person that would kind of overcompensate and binge. I would try to do low carb, and I would find myself at the end of the week, like just craving so much sugar, right? All the processed foods. I was that person that would like literally bake all these cookies and never eat a bite. But it was like the process and like being around the sugar and all the smells that was therapeutic for me, but I wasn't allowing myself to have it. It's definitely great. I mean, like there's some interesting stuff which we'll work on through the course about raw vegetables, which has totally transformed my relationship with salads. Like, no, thank you. Okay, so, you know, there's this hamster wheel of fitness trends that we tend to fall into, right? This never ending cycle of dieting. But I want to help you get back into body trust and refining this expertise that I already know that's in you. Okay, so rewire your mindset and let go of old destructive narratives is part 3 of the program, right? So I'm just going to read this quote to you guys. So, you know, when you look back at an old picture of yourself and think, wow, why did I hate my body then? That's your proof that has never been about how your body looks. So while this is resonating with like body image and like our potential obsession with like weight and how we look, this can also resonate with like other facets of like just in general our performance, right? Our accomplishments at work, how successful we are, you know, in our like relationships. So remember that our lens especially for females, we tend to focus on things that we feel like we can control. But sometimes when the brain is so hardwired for survival, there's a lot of stuff we can't control, right? It's going to put on weight. It's going to slow you down. It's going to make you sick when you have like 5,000 things on your to-do list. So when we look at the mindset component, and Stephanie, we touched on values. Like, I'm a huge believer that, you know, aligning yourself with your values is very important, right? So what did I value? Compassion, respect, authenticity. But in 2010, I was living a very misaligned life, right? Punishment, no pain, no gain, calculation mindset, really focusing on like trying to do more and pushing and grinding. I was chasing happiness, but I was unhappy because I was always living in life in conflict. So when we get clear on our values, right? And I would love for you guys to maybe chime in and chat up with me a little bit about what you value, because I think that's a great number one conversation starter, but also it kind of shares a lot about like your framework, right? What should your framework look like for when you're pursuing health and fitness endeavors? It should always filter through your values, because when you align yourself with truly matters, right? You have unshakable happiness and authenticity. Every fitness, and like I mentioned, those diet gimmicks, fitness trends, like you just literally filter through them through your values, right? Like if I value self-respect, am I going to do a juice fast for 14 days, right? If it puts me in disconnect from my body, right? I'm not respecting my body's needs of hunger, of fullness. So I do want to mention this. You're more of an expert than you realize. I often say this to clients when I first meet because I feel like it helps them understand that you guys know a lot, right? That I will get to know you, or I will not have the opportunity to know you longer than you know you've been in your body. And that right there, like, you've got a lot of data. And I want to help just surface all of that and peel away all the layers and help you get in body trust, right? That body connection, reconnect to your brain. You're more of an expert than you realize. So April's been on here. This is April. She, in her testimonial, was just talking about that she's never participated in a program that factored in all these 3 facets, right? The mindset, the movement, the nutrition. She's evolved as a complete and whole person. So you take someone that's also going through a very different transformation in her life, right? She's growing a baby. She's going through all these different hormonal changes, but she was still able to exit the program feeling more complete, feeling more grounded, feeling more connected to herself and her body. And that's all you could really ask for in a program that, you know, touches on these three things, but then allows you, again, the freedom to be in the driver's seat, to make those decisions, but then have the support and guidance on the way. So as I mentioned, enrollment is now open. A bunch of you guys that are on here are already in, which is exciting. I think it just kind of dives deeper into like what you'll learn more about. Like Olivia, we're definitely going to look at like the vagus nerve stuff, especially when it comes to fullness. Your nutrition comments that you've been making, super fascinating to dive deeper into that. So again, called Better Expert of Your Body. It's the most effective way to reconnect your brain to your body so you can feel like an expert of your body and your life, right? I'd love to make you an expert of your body, but if that like trickles in over to you, like feeling like so much clarity in who you are and what you can take on in work and life and relationships, like that's awesome. So the first part of the program is feel. So for those of you that are in the program, right, we're going to have these amazing group coaching calls. I have these discovery calls because I'm picking women that are really aligned with myself and what this program delivers, because I'm not about to falsify this as like, you know, this is a diet, this is a workout plan. No, this is like an exploration of yourself, and you are going to play an active role in this process. So we have these weekly group coaching calls. You have Monday through Friday email support. You have a private Slack channel with me, so you can feel free to chime in and ask me questions throughout the week. And you get lifetime access to the private Facebook group. It's great because after the 12 weeks after you graduate, like you'll still have that community. And I think that's so necessary for a lot of us who often feel like we're navigating this alone. Phase 2 is move. So this is where a lot of the neuroscience comes in. It's my gateway to getting an initial lens on how you're doing. Movement has always been my entryway to better understand you. So we get a brain-based movement assessment. You submit that to me. I take my time assessing it, and they give you something in return that's tailored towards you and your brain. So I'm getting a better understanding of like what's actually going on. With that, you get an accompanying 25 video tutorial library. And then through the program, you get 3 phases of progressions and an individualized breathing protocol. So I am such a believer in breath work. And for those of you that have even, you know, focused on breathing, you probably notice an instantaneous change in how well you feel and how well it grounds you. The last part of the program is the fuel. So it's a 10-week nutrition course focused on neurology, right? And getting you to eat like a kid again and really establishing what intuitive eating means. So you get, with that, you're getting a 200-page nutrition mindfulness workbook. Those of you that are in the program are ready, super excited. We're putting the finishing touches. We hope to actually mail those to you guys so you guys can start kind of looking through that there. You'll also get a Better Expert nutrition quiz. The nutrition quiz is just going to take what we're going to learn about your body to another level, because it's going to deeply look at all the things that from a more scientific lens of like, again, why you may like crave X and why you may be deficient in X. So you'll just get more of a deeper lens on that. Oh man, these are like not formatted well. So you get additional bonuses. One of the bonuses is the Fueling for Your Cycle guide. So for a lot of us, you know, we were never educated enough about how to better train for our body when it's that time of the month. But how many of us have intuitively known that when our period's approaching, we're feeling more lethargic, right? Or maybe we have a random boost of energy. This book kind of goes into more detail about how to better train with your body during that phase. A Breathing 101 guidebook, again, going deeper into those concepts. Bonus guest expert interviews. This is something that the first couple groups that went through the program absolutely loved. Missy Bunch is another brain-based practitioner. She talks a lot about the threat bucket. She helps kind of dissect a lot of this information and shares it in such an authentic way about, you know, just how to better train with for your body from your brain. Taylor is an amazing health coach. She's just so well spoken about body building self-trust, redefining self-care. Laura is a registered dietitian. So Laura goes deeper into some hormonal health work with nutrition, but as well as like, I love what she mentioned about, you know, why flexibility in your diet is probably healthy, right? We're looking at all of these, what I talk about, literally all these guest experts like explode and talk about this in more detail, because we have to understand that there are, again, more options for us to live the best life we can. And it's not just this no pain, no gain mentality. Jessica, amazing. She talks about the shoulder mindset, right? I should be doing X, I shouldn't eat that, should eat that, and really dismantling that and then figuring out what you actually want to eat and what you want to do with your life. She talks about emotional trauma and how it gets stored in the body. So she's very well educated in neuroscience as well. So this is a beautiful conversation. Alicia is another brain-based practitioner. So she talks more about metabolism and breathing. And Alex rounds it out with her expertise as a nutritionist and health coach, and really supports this whole principle of like nutrition, data collection, experimentation. So again, an added bonus is you get lifetime access to the private Facebook group. If you decide to apply tonight and decide to invest in the program, I will be offering those of you an additional 30-minute coaching call within the program, which you can utilize at any point within the program. Those of you that are already in the program, you should have gotten an email from Megan about, we're going to honor that for you guys as well. So you guys will get a one-on-one call with me throughout the program. So the total value for everything that's included is close to $10,000. Again, enrollment is now open, and what it breaks down to is you have two options to invest in the program after application. So once you apply, we'll book a call, we'll get on a discovery call to make sure that you're a good fit, because I'm really, really particular about who I really want to encourage to be in this program. The investment options are two options. So you have the most flexible, which is going to be 2 installments of $2,649, or the full investment of $5,000. So these are the two options that you can pick from. One thing I kind of want to walk you guys through are some of the testimonials that I've received from clients. So Nikki was very kind in saying certain things about just my coaching style. I think one thing I just want to reassure a lot of people of is that your health is so valuable, right? And who you choose to help guide you through that process, be very picky about that. If it's not me, that's totally fine. But I really want you to be very picky about who you have guide you through this process, because they should care a lot about not just your health, but a lot about you. And so she talks about how, I was available to hear and see her, but I'm really there to meet you where you're at. You guys will all come to this program in a very different place. And I just want to reassure you that I'm going to meet you wherever you're at, wherever that is on any given day, on the group coaching calls. If you're having a rough day, it's totally fine. Shoot me an email, let me know. Ashley, I love what she had mentioned. She said so much of this program was about finding your own answers. In doing so, I'm equipped for longer and deeper change than anything I've ever expected. So again, I don't have all the answers. This program is a great foundation, but I want you to be the driver in this program. I will sit with you. I will be your passenger rider. I'll hold the GPS, but you are going to play such a big role in this, because when you exit the program, you're going to feel super equipped and very, very confident in yourself. Sarah, this program has helped me break years of habits and thoughts I've had about food. It's a lot of rewiring in an amazing way. So Sarah, through this process, had a lot of, let's say negative relationship with food, thinking like this was good or bad, shouldn't have carbohydrates, all this stuff. And through the process, we literally kind of like took everything that we heard when she was probably like 5, right? Like a lot of us build these beliefs around food when we're really young, and we figured out whether or not it served her right now. And how do we work that into how we have her eat for her body right now? And again, Vanessa, her relationship with food is a lot less shame-oriented. She can now know why, or can predict when to have a negative approach to food, and she self-evaluates versus defaults to shame. So for a lot of us, we default to shame, but this process is literally about helping equip you and like really dissect your patterns. So again, with a step-by-step strategy, guidance, accountability, do you feel like you can get there to your goal, right? Those goals that you guys thought about in the beginning. For many of us, we may answer with like, yeah, like, with these steps, like I feel confident. Yes, right, Olivia, awesome. But let me ask you this. What if we could get there with more efficiency, with less confusion, less clutter, more support, more community, and have fun, right? Let's do that. So again, I don't offer a money back guarantee. I'm looking for people that are 100% committed and really ready, because I'm a big believer that You know, there's a lot of sayings like, never a good time, but sometimes there is, right? So I'm not here to push you to make an investment. I really want you to be ready to invest in yourself and to make that decision that you deserve this, right? You deserve to be the expert of your body. So again, doors will close December 23rd. You can definitely apply now. And the program starts January 6th. Olivia has her own countdown. So I want to like stop sharing my screen. Cool. So to those of you that are still here, thank you for joining me. Do you guys have any follow-up questions? I would love to help answer anything that I can, whether it's about the program, whether about it's anything that you're experiencing, any symptoms. Let's utilize this time to kind of like chat. And if you guys don't have any questions, don't worry. This webinar it is recorded. So I am going to be posting this. I'll post this in actually the private Facebook group. If you guys are not a part of that, it is Befriend Your Body, Move Confidently in Your Life. And I will be sharing this actually in an email too. So because you signed up, you already have the email thread. So I'll definitely be sending this to you guys through that. Cool. So for those of you that joined, thank you guys so much for being here. This is super fun. Divya, great question. So she's asking about the group sessions. Will be in a similar format to this session? No. So this is like very educational based, which parts of the coaching calls will be kind of like PowerPoints and things like that, but I actually want to see your guys' faces. So you guys will actually be on the coaching call with me. So versus just having like no video sharing, I actually want to share the video so I can see your guys' faces. We will have a chat box on the side though. So let's say as I'm presenting, some questions pop up, you'll definitely have the opportunity to like chime in, and then I'll go back and make sure I answer everything. We will also have like kind of hot seat coaching. So before our coaching calls, I'll be sure to have something sent out to you guys. So let's say, phase 1 of your movement plan, you have some questions on a specific drill. I'll just make sure to answer that in the coaching call, but it'll help me prepare better for each call. Each week, obviously there's a course syllabus. So each week there's something that we're making sure we get through. The coaching call is going to revolve around that. And then we'll find a flow with everyone too. Eve. Thank you, Eve. Yeah, so Eve and I met through actually my business coach, and she kind of chimed in about having some very interesting vertigo after her flight. Great. Yeah, that's awesome, Lori. Like, yeah, take everything that we kind of touched on today, save those questions that we asked or that I asked, and then kind of explore that. So if there's no other questions, Divya, hopefully that answers that for you. You will wait until the program starts. Do you have access to the program already? Because it should be locked, actually. Okay. Divya, I'll have to, okay. Let me make sure to adjust that. It's fine that you totally went through it, but I'll make that adjustment. Olivia, what helped you most after posting country down? Let me pose a couple questions for you guys. So when it comes to kind of reframing your mindset, sometimes it takes like a really strong support system to help you through that. So when I went through my bikini rebound, I had some really great support with me. People that constantly showed up for me, regardless of what I looked like, regardless of how I felt. So that was enough reinforcement for me to start detaching myself and my self-worth from my body. So I think when you look at someone that's going through something like a competition rebound, right? You're depressed, you're struggling with your anxiety, your weight is changing, your body's changing. It's like you need those reaffirming people to consistently show up for you and show you that they love you regardless of what you look like. Thank you, Eve. So that was one component. I did hire a coach, and he was by far one of the most best mentors I've ever had. And a lot of how I was mentored through that process is within this program. So a lot of the journaling prompts, a lot of the questionings, the beliefs, like all of that. I mean, it's like amazing. Like what I literally went through is like as systematized as I possibly could get it into this program. So cool. Okay. Anything else, guys? Oh, yeah. Cool. So, and then, I mean, when you factor in like when your body, when I start to approach like the brain-based work too, like I just gave me a whole nother lens on how to move my body. So I stopped moving it to sweat, right? I started to move it in ways that were so novel that my brain literally was like soaking all that up, and I felt far less stressed. So my body responded positively to the way that I was moving it. Yeah. And again, all of that's literally what I've done. It's in the program. Yeah, awesome, cool. Okay, so maybe I'm going to make that correction actually in the program, because everything's going to officially be unlocked for you guys. But thank you guys for joining me. If you have questions, feel free to respond to the emails that you guys will be getting, and I will talk to you guys all soon. Yes, you're welcome, Priscilla. Bye, everyone.